This is Morten from INKISH TV, and I have the pleasure to be with my good friend from London, right, Ali? You and I are going to talk about our little session next week. But before we do that, Ali, maybe you just give a short introduction to yourself, please.
Sure. So I'm the VP at the Syncoms Group. Thank you very much for facilitating. And at the Syncoms Group, we empower print companies to sell and develop their web-to-print platforms. We are commercial printers ourselves. We play in both the B2C and the B2B space. So we know how both of these arenas work. And part of my role at the Syncoms Group is to bring this experience that I've gained over the past decade or over a decade to the industry as a whole.
And just for people to understand that when you are going to do that presentation of the EFI platform next week, you're not employed by EFI. You're basically just a happy customer, right?
Yeah. So next week's that is absolutely correct. We're not employed by EFI. We are in fact independent consultants. And next week's webinar, interestingly, is actually nothing, although it's hosted by EFI, is to all intents and purposes nothing to do with the EFI software. It's all about, well, it's just about a generic subject matter rather than EFI software itself, which was what the last webinar, of course, was completely dedicated to.
And talking about the last webinar you and I also did, I don't hope I made you feel uncomfortable, because I was actually trying to be the harsh host and asking the critical questions. How was it for you?
It was wonderful. Bring it on. We are here to serve the industry. We have to be frank. We have to be open. We have to be transparent, and we just have to say it how it is. Individuals who join the webinar are joining in order to benefit their businesses that they have grown over a number of years, and therefore we are duty bound to be of service to them.
And one of the things I actually liked a lot with the session we had was, as you just mentioned, EFI is maybe hosting this, but they're not interfering, and you and I, we can say basically anything we like, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's the beauty of it. We say things as they are, Morten, and I think that's fundamentally important. If individuals come to me, and despite the fact I use EFI software, we're a partner of EFI, and I've used EFI technology for many years. But if I do come across a company that for whom I feel that EFI technology may not be suitable, then I'll simply tell them it's not suitable. It's not for you. And that's just the way it is.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the things I wouldn't say a question, because I didn't do that, but you showed some really nice websites, and as far as I remember, one of the questions I asked was whether it required some dedicated IT people to develop some of the more sophisticated things, and as I remember, you said yes to it. But one thing that came to mind after that session is that it doesn't really matter, right? Because if you look at it from a business perspective, you don't set up an offset printing press without having specialists helping you doing it, right? And why should it be any different with a web-to-print platform, right?
And that's absolutely correct, and that is exactly where the problems lie. Many a times we invest in software, but we don't invest in the resources required to run the software, and then we hold the web-to-print supplier to account, or we get disgruntled with them rather. But we haven't made the investment on our side as printers, and as we should. And
if you look at that from being, as you said, both a proud user of EFI, it's not called Digital Storefront anymore. What is it called now? It's called
MDSF, Market Direct Storefront.
One of the things I couldn't help think about is you just touched upon that people who invest in web-to-print sometimes forget to invest in the resources, making sure that it actually becomes a successful investment. I was just thinking that one of the reasons why it maybe is even more important to do so if you invest in web-to-print is maybe, I'm just saying maybe, because you don't really change from your platform to just another brand at some point, because basically you build your entire identity, your product catalog, your integration to your workflow system. So it's a quite big step to invest in web to print, right?
It is a very big step to invest in print, which is why organizations need to be fully aware of what's involved, what resources they need, and how to map out the roadmap towards deploying their web to print software, and they should therefore hold the web to print merchant to account in order to ensure that they get the desired result for the platform that they're investing in. So neither should the company investing downplay what they are what they're investing in. On the same front, the web to print provider should be fully aware of the impact and the consequences of their software to the organization. It's just not a sale. It is in the business end, it's a life-changing investment.
I like that approach, because that probably also put the relationship you have with your future vendor in perspective, right? Because I mean, this is almost like a marriage, right? You go into it because you really want it and you want it to happen, right? And sometimes it takes work to get there, and sometimes it's just a day in the summertime, right? But I was just wondering, I used to work with web to print as well, and you have obviously more experience than I have, but I think that some of the problems you have investing in web to print is like, how do you get your products online? How do you make all the descriptions of the product? How do you do the pricing of them to be maybe competitive and still profitable, and all those kind of things? From your personal perspective, when you started your business and you started that online presence you have, how was that process?
I think, Morten, I disagree with you. I don't think it's about pricing and description and profitability. That's what you do in business, right? You have to know your price. You have to know the description. You have to be profitable, right? So this is nothing new because you're going into web to print. The issue where printers where they actually struggle is we don't plan, right? We don't plan on how we're going to deploy this web to print platform within our organizations. And what do I mean by that? Sales team who are going to sell it, individuals who will build the storefronts, individuals, ensuring that the files automatically go to the machines and are printed, ensuring that the invoicing is automated. So the fundamental issue is not pricing, profitability, descriptions. It's actually planning from A to Z as to how I will get this web to print platform off the ground. And interestingly, many web to print, providers, and I'm going to be a little bit contentious here. People may get upset, but they'll say to you, the moment you deploy web to print, you're going to get millions, right?
No.
Then one, it's not going to happen. And number two, fundamental is if for example you are deploying B2C. Okay, you can do the pricing, description, profitability. You can have a pretty website. It can be fully functional. It can be completely automated. You can get all of that. But how are you going to get traffic to your website?
So, Ali, next week we are going to do a wonderful EFI webinar together. So what is it all about this time?
Well, the webinar is going to be all about how to ensure that once organizations invest in a web to print platform, how they succeed. How they succeed on the sales front, how they succeed on the pre-press front, how they succeed on the deployment front, how they succeed on the finance front. So I'll share my experience with clients as to why their web to print strategies have failed. So we'll look at some of those reasons as to why strategies fail, but I'll provide the ingredients for actually enabling success when it comes to web to print deployment, from my own experience as a commercial printer, but from the experiences of also clients that I've engaged with in relation to bringing their web to print strategy to fruition.
And with that said, I take that as a very good reason for people to sign up for the webinar September 15th on the EFI website, right?
Absolutely. So do sign on, and I very much look forward to being of service.
I look forward to see you next week, Ali. Thank you.